Just as materials can change width and height, they can also change elevation. We saw a glimpse of this with the magnetic reaction of buttons to the touch of your finger, but this can also occur with interactions such as scrolling. Consider two surfaces which start off in the same plane and move together in lockstep. At a certain point, one surface may need to stick and raise up to allow the other to pass below it. We call this a seam to step transition. The two adjacent surfaces first form a seam, but when the lower surface slides below the other, they form a step. For example, this app employs an extended app bar that collapses to a standard height and pins to the top of the screen as the user scrolls, so you see the elevation increasing. Now, you can build this effect entirely in XML using the new app bar layout and collapsing toolbar layout. Let's look at some layout XML code. At the root, we start with coordinator layout, which helps coordinate behaviors across several kinds of views. In this case, it'll coordinate the scrolling of a list with the scrolling of our app bar. Since coordinator layout is in the Android Design Support library, we'll need to reference it by its full class name and also include the app namespace for support library attributes. We'll use an app bar layout under the coordinator layout and give it the expanded height we want of 168 dips. Within that, we'll include a collapsing toolbar layout and tell it to scroll off the screen until it reaches the collapsed size. That's this exit until collapsed flag. Inside that, we'll place our toolbar widget and give it the smaller height we want to collapse to, the 56 dips. Note that the collapsing toolbar layout will be responsible for drawing the title. The toolbar widget here is only responsible for drawing the icons. Finally, the other widget here will be a recycler view, which uses a special predefined layout behavior that triggers app bar scrolling when the recycler view is scrolled. The Android Design Support library does all the rest. Check out the documentation for scroll flags and layout behaviors to find out about other great scrolling behaviors you can build with the library. Using these techniques, we can divide our UIs into surfaces to communicate their relationship and provide interaction cues. Interfaces should be dynamic, responding to user interaction and clearly communicating any changes in state. Remember these techniques when trying to express the relationship between your UI elements. They'll help make your screens immediately comprehensible and make your app much more intuitive. Let's go to James, who will show you how to put this to practice with code.
So let's get started by looking at the example Roman discussed. The awesome thing about this is that most of the logic lies in the layout file, and the Java code stays pretty tame. The only time we refer to the collapsing toolbar layout is here, where we assign the title. Collapsing toolbar layout allows us to set the title style when the toolbar is expanded or collapsed. We'll explore in a moment why this is useful. So let's take a look at another food-inspired app. As we can see, we don't have to be limited to a solid background when dealing with a collapsing toolbar. When you scroll, the image disappears and the word eclairs appears in the app bar. The interesting bits about this image view are right here. We want the image to have a parallax effect as it collapses. That's to say that the foreground moves faster than the background, providing a sense of depth to the scene. In this layout, we have a text view whose content takes up a lot of space. We would expect to need to use a scroll view. Without this line, the app doesn't know when to scroll the toolbar, so your toolbar remains stationary. This is because app bar layout expects to have a sibling in coordinator layout that is capable of nested scrolling. You can do that with a nested scroll view from the support library or by setting nested scrolling enabled to true. The nested scrolling enabled property is only present on scroll view for lollipop and above. Nested scrolling works with coordinator layout to notify and manage when the app bar should be scrolling, the nested view should be scrolling, both should be scrolling, or none. Check the instructor's notes for some resources on app bar layout.